Around this time last year I became a father. At the same time I started a new job, running a fine art course in the small town where I grew up. Before my daughter was born, just before I started my job, which involved a 2-hour commute each way, I'd made a very big piece of art, which involved working with lots of people, lots of rehearsals, filming, and hours of editing and post-production work. I had an exhibition at a gallery in London, and there were lots of people at the opening, and we all got drunk and had fun. But when the private view finished, and everyone else went on to a bar and then to a club, I got the train back home and tried not to wake my heavily pregnant wife as I got into bed. So then my baby was here and I started my job, and because of the work and the childcare and the sleepless nights and the early mornings and the long commute, I kind of knew I wouldn't be able to make any big bits of art for a year or two. But I started filming things on my phone, when I was at work, in between teaching, or on my commute, or when I was walking with my daughter asleep in the pram or in a carrier on my chest, or when my wife had the baby and I was doing chores in the house, I would stop whenever I saw something that caught my eye and take a video. And I thought maybe, because I wouldn't have the chance to make any big artworks, I would make small artworks using the clips I was filming. Little videos that would be short and simple and not too complex. Small ideas made quickly. Sometimes these moments came with the flash of an idea. For example, I once had a thought while I was just about to start cleaning a milk pan about how earlier, when I'd burned the milk for my coffee, I'd felt sad that the coffee didn't taste good. But now, later on, that feeling didn't seem to affect me at all and stayed with me only as a memory. I thought it was funny that feelings could disappear as feelings, but still exist as information about your relationship with the world. So I filmed the milk pan in the sink, and I filmed the milk pan hung back up on the wall after I washed it, but I never got around to filming me cleaning the milk pan, which I couldn't do without setting up a tripod, and which would have filled in the gap between these other two shots and helped me make the video. And another idea was when I noticed these double yellow lines on my commute, and I didn't necessarily have a feeling about them other than that I'd noticed them. But I'd been getting my students to try and not think too much before they started making work, so I thought I'd film them and then write something to say over the top, and that would be the video. I also started noticing things that were a bit like the double yellow lines, but were more like trails or paths or routes or tracks, lines to be followed rather than edges to warn you off. So then I thought maybe I'd put these trails together with these boundaries and write some interesting words comparing them to each other and thinking about their different jobs. But I didn't know exactly how that would work, so I kind of put off the writing and instead just carried on collecting more and more videos. Sometimes I had no idea why I was filming. I just saw something from far away, turned my camera on and then walked towards it. But the approach was all there was. There wasn't an idea for what to do with what I noticed, how to turn it into more than just a file on my phone. And all the while there were also swarms or flocks or clouds and other formless things. And all the while there were also swarms or flocks or clouds and other formless things. And all the while there were also swarms or flocks or clouds and other formless things. These images were almost impossible to capture because the things I was filming were too big or too complex or too diffuse, or their edges weren't clear enough. I wasn't sure if they would even work as videos because they were hard to focus on with my iPhone, and I couldn't tell if they would look like anything at all when I played them back. It was kind of the same with the dead animals I saw on walks in the countryside, which I didn't know what to do with or what they really meant to me, but filmed nonetheless, just in case. And with the exhaustion of working so much and never getting any sleep, and the exhilaration of trying to keep my daughter alive and teach students how to make art, all of these things I filmed seemed very important. And every time I pulled out my phone, I couldn't wait to start making the artworks. After maybe about 9 months, I started to realise that I wasn't actually making the artworks. I was just filming all these clips on my phone and then occasionally putting them onto my computer, storing them in a folder called Little Videos, and then not looking at them again. But even while I wasn't making any art, I was thinking about this idea of small artworks. How small can an artwork be? What is the minimum level of subject matter or concept or material that it takes to make an artwork come into being? And if this kind of work is all that you do, can you ever be a great artist, or will you always be minor, like the work? And in a way, because I wasn't making art, or because I was failing to make even the minor artworks I'd planned to make, I was also thinking about mediocrity, about what it is to have mediocre concerns. What if you aren't a great artist? What if the work you make is okay, passable, interesting, but not great? In the sense of being, like a Picasso or whatever, but also in that more colloquial sense of not really being very good. What if you and your work are mediocre? Does it mean you shouldn't make art at all, or that you aren't really an artist? I mean, it's true, it's hard to say you're an artist if you aren't making any art, and I really wasn't making any art, I was just noticing things. And if I was just noticing things and never turning the things I noticed into artworks, then why did I have to film them? Couldn't I just notice them? Maybe it would be better to just turn and say to whoever I was with, "Hey, do you see that over there?" And we could stand and look at the thing together and then carry on with our day. And maybe later we would be reminded of it and it would bring pleasure to us. And it wouldn't matter if the feeling of pleasure was big or small or major or minor or great or mediocre, because it would just be a nice feeling, and because no one would be measuring it against any kind of historic benchmark or established notion of quality or moral order or aesthetic theory. But things keep catching my eye, and I'm not sure what the answer is to the question of who gets to call themselves an artist. So I just keep taking out my phone and planning for the moment when I finally have time to make some